It's Bigfoot Collectors Club with Bryce and Michael. I know a ghost story or two. Let's do this.
Hey everybody, and welcome back to another episode of Bigfoot Collectors Club, the show where we talk to amazing guests about their personal paranormal history and share stories of high strangeness. I'm your host, Michael McMillan. With me always is your other host,
Bryce Johnson.
And super producer,
Riley Bray.
Hello, boys.
Hey.
Day 5,000 in quarantine.
Roughly.
Of course, we're all recording from our separate homes. People, stay safe, stay sheltered. We have an amazing guest today. I want to get right into it because we've already been chatting with him for a few minutes. He's wonderful. I've wanted him to be on the show for a long time. He's an actor, he's a comedic performer, and a podcaster. He's appeared in such shows as Adam Ruins Everything, Bajillion Dollar Properties, and of course, Crazy Ex-Girlfriend. You can hear him as the co-host on two podcasts, Drag Her and We Love Trash. Boys and girls, please give a warm Club Scout salute to Mano Agapion.
Hey, what's up, Mano?
Hey, what's up, guys? That was great. Can you put that on my tombstone? That was wonderful.
I mean, it's on your IMDb, which is basically just going to be your tombstone one day.
I was just to add, subscribe to CISO. If you could just add that, and then it would be perfect. But that was awesome. Hey, guys.
Hi.
Hey, how are you, Mano?
I'm awesome. I'm actually doing pretty well, highs and lows in the teen, and I'm riding a high right now like a foolhardy surfer. I'm doing well for some reason.
Oh, good. Hey, catch those waves and ride them as long as you can.
Yeah, I mean, right. If you're on top of the big kahuna, you don't feel any of the pain. Do you know what I mean?
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Go to the end of the tube, bro.
Get pitted.
I don't know. Do you guys remember that movie? There was a movie called The Big Kahuna, right?
I just remember the Big Kahuna, for the Big Kahuna burger from Pulp Fiction.
Yeah. Yum. And is that baked? Because that was like with a pineapple on it and stuff, right?
Yep.
Okay, be honest. Who thinks that's good and who thinks that's nasty?
Dude, I'm down with pineapple on pizza, on burgers. Pineapple's okay by me.
I don't do pineapple on pizza. I don't know, man.
No?
I think they're different things.
I used to, and then I got over it.
Yeah. Yeah. I would want it to be from a really good chef, and I would be like, yes, I'll try this. I'll try this.
You haven't even tried it.
My first job was at Little Caesars, and I explored all different kinds of flavor combos.
Whoa, wait a minute. We just unlocked more of the Bryce and backstory mystery. Wait, what?
Yep, my first job was at Little Caesars, and I would explore all kinds of flavor combos. I would have my buddies call in, and then they wouldn't come picking up, and I would just leave me pizza for days.
Wow.
But anyway, so I came upon Canadian bacon and pineapple, which is popular in some districts. But man, it was I loved it. I really got down.
What was the best Frankenstein pizza you made? Do you remember?
Oh man, I don't know.
It's hard to remember.
I'd have to think. It's hard to remember. Yeah. That was a long ass time ago.
Caesars days.
I worked at I waited tables one summer in high school at a restaurant that was out in the middle of nowhere and no one ever came to it, but it was sci-fi based, so I wanted to work specifically at this place. And I never made any money. It was horrible, but it was like a 1950s diner, and they had a burger called the R2D2. And it was peanut butter and banana on the burger.
Okay.
And it was really good. And I used to make them in college.
Well, that's Elvis's favorite sandwich, the peanut butter banana sandwich.
That's true.
Yep.
Do you want to have your mind fucking blown? Last night, I ate plain sun chips with peanut butter on them. It worked. I'm serious. It worked because the palate of a sun chip is like it's a plain one. It's pretty neutral. So it was kind of just salty crackers with peanut butter.
It's just multigrain bread as a chip, basically.
Yeah, it worked, honestly.
Quarantine tip from your pal, Mano Agapion.
There you go.
Okay, guys, before we get into Mano's personal paranormal history, we have a segment that we're doing for the first time. It's called Controversy Club. Bryce, there's something you wanted to address about last week's episode. I'm just going to fill Mano. You're welcome to chime in on all this. Last week, we talked about with guest Janie Haddad Tompkins about a tweet that Bryce replied to of Neil deGrasse Tyson. Neil deGrasse Tyson was basically trolling UFO lovers, and it got Bryce a little miffed. And then we talked about Neil deGrasse Tyson for a moment. But we got to let.
It was two tweets, one about UFOs and then one about Bigfoot.
Okay. Oh, there's a big. I forgot there was a Bigfoot one.
So I was really miffed.
Now it's personal.
It made you that Neil deGrasse Tyson was going for blood on people commenting about UFOs.
He was trolling. He was just being snobby and snarky.
Got it.
So we received a letter. Actually, it was mailed not to the BigfootCollectorsClub at gmail.com, but it was sent to Campfire, our network, Campfire Media's email.
They told our
which
parents.
They told.
I kind of love that.
We got in trouble from our mom and dad. So, listener, we heard you. Bryce is going to read your letter. And I don't know, I haven't talked about this with Bryce, but apparently you want to respond. You're going to read the letter and then respond to the criticism.
Yes, I would love a chance to respond and reply. And so we got a letter from a guy named, and it's pretty anonymous name, so I'm pretty
just
sure
say first name. Just say first name.
Yeah, it says Doc. So let's just call him Doc. And the subject is titled...
Wow, how is that an anonymous name?
Well, because it's really, just there's a letter after it, and I could...
Okay.
I mean, it's pretty... Anyway,
gotcha.
Let's call him Doc. And and the subject is titled In Defense of Neil. And he says, hey, guys, love the show. Each week is fun and interesting. Listen to this week's En route to a long solo hike in the Virginia Appalachians with camera in hand. Nice. Nothing cryptid captured this trip. And... what is with the NDT bashing, Neil deGrasse Tyson? Mm-hmm. Have to call you out on this one. You suggest Tyson has never read a book on UFOs. Have you ever read a Tyson book? He has several on-camera interviews discussing extraterrestrial life. He has suggested Titan as a great place to look for it. But he holds to the Fermi paradox for intelligent life, or is at least an agnostic. His words. Keep up the good work, but maybe not slam one of the best scientific educators of our time in the process. Doc, professional science educator and believer.
All right.
Well, I wrote a little something back in response.
No, just also warning you, Bryce. This is how you got into trouble in the first place.
Well, I know, and listen. I'm not stepping on any toes here. I will walk gingerly. Thank you, Doc. First of all, I just want to say thank you for listening to our show. Thank you for writing in. We really appreciate it and are glad you like the show. However, in response, I must admit that I don't think Neil deGrasse Tyson is the one who needs defending here. After all, it was Tyson who decided to tweet pot shots at the UFO and Bigfoot community. And while I'm sure he's listening right now and appreciates your defense of his skeptical approach and scientific accomplishments, I think it's the UFO and Bigfoot community that could use a little defending. In my humble opinion, it's the hunter who has spent most of their life in the woods and yet somehow finds himself staring eye to eye with an 8-foot-tall, half-human, half-ape, whose friends and neighbors tell him he must be crazy and that he only just saw a bear who needs defending. Or to be honest, it's the hardworking farmer who witnesses a luminous craft land on his or her property and watches as strange little beings step out that could benefit from a little back me up here. I actually really like Neil deGrasse Tyson and Carl Sagan for that matter. And in the spirit of getting people excited about science and the universe, I'm all for it. But when it comes to the phenomenon and subjects like UFOs or Bigfoots, I'd like to quote John Goodman's character Walter Sobchak from The Big Lebowski when I say, Donnie, you're out of your element. And while Neil deGrasse Tyson may think he's throwing us a bone by saying Titan is a good place to look for extraterrestrial life, he's showing us no favors. He's talking about bacterial and microbial life, and that's not what we're debating here. And of course he holds to the Fermi paradox, which basically states that if there was extraterrestrial life, we should have already been visited by the ETs or their probes. Well, that's a straw man's argument because it assumes that we haven't. And you're right. I've never read a Neil deGrasse Tyson book cover to cover because there's probably no Bigfoots, ghosts, aliens, or talking plants in them. So yeah, you got me there. I'm guilty as charged. Look, I'm not against science or the scientist. I love science and I love scientists. I am, however, against the snickering erudite know-it-all who thinks that science is the answer to everything and that it alone is the key to figuring out all of life's mysteries. I'm against the individual who claims that the UFO and Bigfoot phenomenon is not a scientific problem to be solved, and who discounts the subject entirely by suggesting that our best evidence consists of a few grainy videos, when in reality, guys like deGrasse Tyson simply refuse to look at the mountains of data because the evidence is outside the realms of repeatability and unworthy of analysis because, let's be honest, it's just too weird to be true. And when it comes to the innumerable eyewitness accounts that have taken place consistently for thousands of years, I'm tired of hearing and think it's just lazy to assume that all those individuals must have undergone some temporary psychosis, hallucination, or probably more to the point, are just outright lying. It's unfortunate that we're at a point in our society where we're ruled by the separation of our beliefs, shackled by our opposite ideologies, whether Democrat or Republican, religious or scientific, Bigfoot believer and everyone else. Can't the answer lie somewhere in the middle, somewhere between material science and personal firsthand experience? I'd like to think so. And I think that's why we're so far behind the eight ball at truly understanding just what this phenomenon is, who or what has been intervening in human affairs from the very beginning. Because when we approach the subject of high strangeness with a childish taboo and a giggle factor, like Neil deGrasse Tyson often does, then we're doing ourselves and science a big disservice. But I hold no grudge, and I thank you for being a science educator who is open to the unknown. And if you're listening to our show and are trekking through the Appalachian trails with a camera by your side, looking for cryptids, well, then I say, sir, you're working in an entirely different laboratory than most and are, in fact, engaging the phenomenon. And I admire that. And if you just so happen to capture a blurry image of something you saw, something truly unbelievable, and no one believes you, well, you know who to call. Love, Bryce.
Right. That was too long. You lost it for me because that was just too long.
Yeah, it was a little long-winded.
Of your last will and testament. Jesus Christ, that was too long. I mean, you make great points.
Bryce, that was like your Linus during the Christmas pageant speech. Yeah, look, hey, Doc, thank you for writing and thank you for listening to the show. Bryce, you make some good points, but also we're just kidding around. Bryce talks to squirrels in his backyard. He's crazy.
Really
don't listen to this guy. He's a nut job. We all know it. He is nuts. We love him for it. He's got a great imagination, and he's open-minded. But look, it's just we're just saying Neil deGrasse Tyson likes to ruin things for people. He does. He watches a Star Wars movie, and he says none of this could ever happen. We know. We get it. We get it. It's called fantasy. And this stuff, UFO shit, is weird because it's weird. But we're really not coming after him. Don't worry about it.
Absolutely not. In fact, obviously he's a listener and he's looking for cryptids too. So he's one of us, and I get it. But I just, I'm of the opinion, science doesn't need backing up here. We get it. We live in a materialist reductionist world where, it all comes down to science and,
Yeah, I mean, I will say these days maybe science does need a little backing up.
That's true. Very true.
Donnie, you're out of your element here.
All right,
that's good.
Okay,
isn't it fun to why not be a curious a person who's curious about the world than just shutting everything out, and that's fun.
Agreed.
That's the much shorter version. I like yours.
Yeah.
See,
too long.
All right, we're going to take a very quick break, not too long, and when we come back, it's time for more fun with Mano Agapion. Welcome back. We're talking to Mano Agapion. Mano, we ask all of our guests, what is your personal paranormal history.
Okay, so here's the fun part. I have absolutely seen at least 2 ghosts, yet I don't believe.
Fantastic.
It's that weird thing where I can't tell if it's like I'm cautiously. Part of me is just like, oh, I'm a cautious non-believer because the experiences I had were like pretty intense. So then I just became a skeptic, and I think it's easier not to have experiences when you're a skeptic. In my limited experience, but both of the legit ghosts I saw were in Greece, which makes sense because that place is too old.
It's the Bryce's letter of places. Too long.
History's too long. No, but I saw them there, and should I launch right into one of the times I saw a ghost?
Sure. Any way you want to tell the story. To full disclosure, I've been slightly tipped off, so I'm being a bit leading because I've heard that you had some crazy experience. So let's just get into it.
Well, I have 2. I mean, the one has a better ending, and one is just skepticism. But one time in Greece, well, I'll tell you both. But the one that really fucked me up was when I was in Greece. I was at my brother-in-law's house, and on the island of Milos, which is where the Venus de Milo was from. Remember that? Remember that sculpture?
Yeah.
Oh yeah.
Oh, so good.
Yeah, I think London has it now because, they're monsters, but whatever. They're like that whole weird thing where they're like, well, we stole it fair and square.
Yeah, you can't have it back now. We took it from you.
Yeah. So I was on Milos, and it was lovely. It's a beautiful island known for its beaches. They filmed part of Tumareda there. You remember that? I was in this old house that my brother-in-law grew up in, really old house, classic Greek hut. Like, it's that white poured concrete hut you'll see on a poster, and it is incredibly humble. I mean, it's if not 1,000 years old, it's probably, I guess it could be a couple hundred years old, if not more. But it's like a 2-room home where there's just a hallway, a bedroom, and then an everything else room.
I'm sorry, did you say how old it was?
It was at least a couple hundred years old.
Wow.
Like, it was old. It was like dusty. The bathroom was outside. So like it was creepy because you had to go outside to the bathroom, and there was sort of like just like a spigot in the hillside where you would take a shower. And I got a weird feeling from this place immediately because I found out that my brother-in-law's father was a goat butcher.
Oh.
Yeah, he was a goat butcher. And like while I was outside, I saw this like old, dilapidated shack filled with like old goat butchering equipment.
Right.
It was like fucking just spooky old equipment, like from the turn of the century when they thought they understood machines, but they didn't.
They're like, we just know how to break bones.
Yes. Yeah, it looked like fucking dentist equipment from the Victorian era. It was horrifying. So I was already creeped out. I was like, this is not great. So I go to sleep in the everything else room. I go to sleep in what is my brother-in-law's old room. He grew up in this house, and I'm sleeping in his room, and I have a fit of sleep paralysis. Have you guys ever had sleep paralysis?
Oh, yeah.
Ugh.
Well versed with it on the show as well.
I bet. So really nasty. And then as I'm like, oh God, I can't move my body. I don't know what's going on. In the hallway, because there's no doors in this house, in this sort of open door, there's an open sort of door that leads to the single hallway of the home. I notice like smoke collecting, and a sort of figure is there, like a dark, almost a man made of smoke, if you will, and his hands drugged to the floor. And I mean, the palm side down. Like, I remember his palm. Whoa. Yeah, it was nasty. His palms hit the floor. Or not his palms, with his knuckles, if you will. You know?
Right.
Like, and I remember
like a gorilla.
Yes. Like fucking like that. Remember that big orange hair cartoon from Bugs Bunny?
Oh,
yes.
yeah.
Yeah.
That but like he was like thin and like even though he looked like a man, I could not make out like a face. You know, it was just like a very dark figure, like a smokishness about him, and I could not move. I wanted to move. I even wanted to close my eyes, and I remember like having a hard time closing my eyes. I remember feeling awful and just feeling like unsafe. I was unclear if it was a dream or not, you know, because I was like, what is this a dream? Is this sleep paralysis? What's going on? And what's the difference? Honestly, I was finally able to shake out of it and turn over. And I remember I had to pee so bad, but I was like, I am not leaving this bed until it is super bright out, you know, and like I'm not leaving this bed until like I can see sunlight pouring into my eyes, you know, because I was like, I don't want to look again at whatever could be behind me, which is also a weird thing where you're like, I don't even want to, even if it's bright behind me, I don't want to see it. Yeah. But anyways, in the morning comes, and my brother-in-law, we go out to eat breakfast somewhere, and he asked how I slept, and I say, you know, not great, whatever. I was just like, oh, not great. I think I'm just like I of course chalked it up to like being jet lagged and all of that, just being like my schedule's off. And he's like, yo, yeah, like why didn't you sleep good? I was like, I don't know. I had like dreams or something. And he was immediately keyed in. Like he was like, And so after breakfast, we come back to the house. And we go into the room I slept in, which is his old bedroom. And he goes to a dresser. He opens up the dresser in the room. He flips through an old notebook. He shows me a drawing that he drew when he was young, and of a dark figure with hands that drags to the floor.
No.
And he says, "Did you see him?" And I was, of course, disgusted, freaked out. And he was like, no, it's fine. He visits. It's not a big deal. Like, he visited all the time when I was young. And I was like, fuck this.
Whoa.
That's
dude.
crazy. That's crazy.
Yeah.
That's straight up out of a fucking James Wan movie.
Yeah. Very bad.
Yeah.
Yes, very insidious.
Now, did your brother-in-law mention that he comes to me in my dreams, or is this? I want to get away from like. Did you still think you were dreaming at that point, or were you like, oh fuck, this is something else entirely?
I mean, it's weird because the skeptic in me is like, oh, it's just part of a dream and perhaps even a coincidence. You know, like people. There's a lot of you're familiar with. There's a lot of reports that, you know, people see stuff in sleep paralysis because your brain's disconnected from, you know, there's like a weird crossing of wires. But of course, it's super weird and hard to explain that we both saw something that's arguably so similar.
Yeah, that's the crux. Yeah.
Yeah.
So what was his explanation? Did you guys talk about it? Like, did he go, oh, it's called this, or it has a name, like this is what I think it is, or why it's here? Did he have any, in other words, did he have any sense of the mythology around whatever this entity might be?
He did not. I mean, it's a weird thing where he was like, I mean, look, there's wars have been fought on this land forever. You know what I mean? And that's the other little ghost experience I had in Greece, which doesn't have as much juice to it, but it was just like, it was in a war-torn area where I was like, or in a castle, if you will. And I was just like, he was like, look, it's Greece. It's too old. There's just too much history here. So of course there's stuff here. That was his idea behind it. He was like, I don't know. I wouldn't worry about it. And he was very nonchalant about it.
God. It's like in those scary movies where the kid draws a picture. Mommy, I saw this in my room last night.
Yes.
No.
Super, super creepy.
So I'm doing a quick Google here. And the first thing that comes up is a shade in mythology. This is just pulling up on Wikipedia. In literature and poetry, a shade, translating Greek, is the spirit or ghost of a dead person residing in the underworld. So I wonder if there's shades appear in Book 11 of Homer's Odyssey when Odysseus descends into Hades, and in Book 6 of Virgil's Aeneid where Aeneas travels to the underworld. So I don't know. Maybe this is like, because it's described as a shadowy, the shadow of a dead person. Maybe that is something that we could connect it to.
Part of me was like, is it connected to the goat butchering? Like, I don't know. I mean, maybe it's not. Maybe that's, I don't know. It freaked me out. And then someone else who I told the story to told me about a Slavic phenomenon called domovoi or something. Like they were like, oh yeah, well, in Slavic culture, they believe in something called the domovoi, who's like a sleep paralysis monster of some kind.
Interesting.
Yeah, it says here, only select individuals are exempt from the fate of dwelling in shadow after death and instead ascend to the divine sphere. So this sounds like in Greek mythology, shade might be the closest thing that we have to that somebody didn't get to move on. It's kind of like a ghost, but shadowy, kind of like a shadow person. Yeah, I wonder about the knuckle dragging. I wonder with a little bit of further research, we could find a specific entity that drags its knuckles like that. I wouldn't be surprised, to be honest with you. So when you think about it now, what do you think? Are you still just skeptical about it? Or you said you don't believe in this stuff even after you've seen it. And I want to get to your second story, but before we move on from this guy, like, what does your gut tell you?
God, that is a hard question. It's just like, it's hard for me. It's hard for me to deny what I felt when it happened, but everything about my adult life after that has been like, no, let go, forget it. You're fine. You don't believe in magic. But I definitely remember that being a super scary time, but to be a cynic, there's a lot of ways you could explain it away.
But that drawing, Mano, the drawing. I know. I mean, I really, as I've been saying a bunch, it's like, I do think there's just certain places have history that's harder to shake, or harder to let go of, or, more intermingled. I one time 2 years ago when I was more curious, there was someone wrote even about like how like the amount of electricity that leaves your brain when you die. I bet you guys have done research on this. Have you? I'm not sure.
Particularly electricity. No, yeah.
Yeah.
It clicked or it connected with me where they were talking about like, obviously, your brain is electric and a certain amount of electricity leaves your brain. And I forget who it was, but this like, they were basically like sort of a forensic and paranormal person, and they had a whole theory about how our human brains, being electric kind of batteries, could potentially connect with remnant electricity left after people's death.
That's an interesting theory.
Yeah, it was interesting, and that's something I like, things like that where it's like, okay, so there's a little bit of mysticism, but there's a little bit of science perhaps at play we don't understand.
Yeah.
Well, absolutely. I mean, look, at the end of the day, I was thinking about this when we were talking about the Neil deGrasse Tyson stuff earlier, but there's a scientific explanation for all of this, whatever it is. You know what I mean? Ultimately, we just don't understand what it is yet. You know what I mean? Wi-Fi would seem magic to somebody 100 years ago, even 50 years ago. So there is an explanation to it, and maybe it's something like that. I love that kind of shit, to like look to science for how this phenomenon might be operational.
Yeah, it just seems like this sort of entity has almost a personality. I mean, or a characteristic of itself. Not just some sort of bland, mundane shadow person. This one is like, visiting that same room in that same style, and sounds like it's been haunting that room for quite some time.
Yeah, it's very possible because like the history, like that home itself has been like in their family for so long that it's just been passed down from person to person, and it's like there's some history there that would be hard to decode.
Jeez.
Yeah.
So what was the other thing that happened to you in Greece, Mano?
So the other thing that happened to me in Greece was I was on an island called Chios. CHIOS, and you should look it up if you want. I was staying in a castle, and okay, what I mean by that is, you could look up Castle of Chios, and
I'm looking at it right now.
Yes, so it's like an old Phoenician castle, and my grandmother, her family. So basically, it was a castle. The Greeks took it over, back over in like the 1500s or something crazy, like 1400, 1500, something like that. And they basically, what they did at that time is they would turn castles into, for lack of a better word, like neighborhoods or like an apartment building, you know? So now what used to be a moat is a parking lot. And so you park in what used to be a moat, you walk into the castle, and they've turned what used to be giant castle rooms into like shops and like sort of apartments where people live.
It's like the original The Grove.
Holy shit!
Very local LA joke. I apologize.
Yeah, it is. No, it is. Oh, it's a dream. It is the outdoor shopping center of your dreams. Honestly, if they put a cheesecake in, it would be perfect. But it's a creepy old place. And I remember, of course, I was 10 or 12. I think I was 10 this time. I went a couple times to Greece growing up, and you have to walk in, and you're in like a cobblestone apartment that has been kind of updated. You know what I mean? Like throughout the years, kind of updated. So once again, very humble. Sort of, how could I put it? Like it's like if it's an apartment, but really it's like 3 or 4 rooms connected together. You know what I mean? It's like a bedroom, a sort of living area, and a kitchen. And I remember sleeping there, and then a weird time late at night, I had to go use the bathroom, and I remember through my window seeing someone outside, and it was a fucking Greek soldier, like a Greek soldier in a fustanella, which is like a skirt. You can look that up too if you want a visual, but these like fustanella soldiers are sometimes those Greek soldiers you see with like the guns with the knife on it and like the sort of genie shoes. Sometimes they have genie shoes.
Right.
Okay.
Yeah.
And I saw him like clear, crisp human in front of my eyes there. And he looked like harried, if you will. He looked like he was in the heat of a moment. And looked like, I was like, oh my God, a fucking person is back here. And then sort of slowly but surely was able to see him dissipate. You know what I mean? That weird thing where you're like, that's a solid
Mano,
human.
come on.
I know.
Yeah.
I know, but I have that one I have nothing to back up. You know what I mean? That could have been my sleep brain. I don't know what, but I mean, obviously, surely.
Yes, because every 11-year-old boy just thinks of a fustanella first thing in the middle of the night.
Fustanella. I did do research afterwards, and I was like, yeah, those were the kinds of people who would have been fighting right here where this castle is.
Mano, it seems like you have sort of this need to be cynical or skeptical. Why can't you just let yourself, sort of believe what you saw? I'm curious.
That's a very good question.
That's a great question. Yeah, I mean, I'm scared of looking stupid. I'm scared of looking fucking dumb. I guess what I'll honestly say is that I did give up on Christianity years ago. Mm-hmm. And because like being gay and Christian is fucking crazy. It's kind of like it's just a little too hard. It's like, you know what I mean, to believe in a system that says you're an evil.
Well, that depends on which church you go to.
That's okay, true. Yeah. That is true. I haven't been exposed to the good ones. I've only been exposed to ones that were like, you're bad and your lifestyle doesn't matter and
fair enough,
marriage isn't real for you and your love is a hoax. So it got really easy for me to sort of divorce my brain from any form of otherworldly stuff.
Totally.
Yeah.
It's funny to me that, and this has been coming up on the show a lot lately, where even last week with Janie, how it's like, if you don't believe in religion, you can't believe in this stuff. But I don't know. I get why there's that connection, but to me, I don't know, because I'm not a particularly religious person either. But I still believe. Well, I'm open to, I should say, there's something else going on here, and that there is some form of life after death. And, to me, religion is just one, and religions are just a certain point of view of that phenomenon that isn't necessarily getting it all right either, Yeah. But, I mean, if in terms of looking stupid, we're on episode 115 of this show. I mean,
you're in the wrong place.
We definitely don't look smart. So I understand. But what's the worst that could happen is my point.
Let me ask you guys then, what made it easier for you to believe? Like, what made it? Is it just exposure to stories, or what is it?
No, I think and I don't want to speak for Michael, but knowing Michael, for both of us, it's through personal experience of sort of the something that can't be explained. It's sort of led us on a quest to try and figure out what's going on. I believe my senses. I believe in what I see and feel and experience, and when it can't be explained, and when you can find patterns in other people's stories, you're like, oh my God, that's kind of like what I experienced, then that there's just more to this world than meets the eye. I don't know. That's for me personally.
Yeah, I think Bryce and I, Mano, we're just like you, except we run towards it after we had our experiences, and instead of us going, okay, whatever, it's more like, no, what was that? What was that? Why that's fucking weird. And then the consistency between stories often, and the consistency when you look back and see some of the stuff, even the consistency of the strangeness of a lot of this stuff, and the inconsistency of this stuff is consistent, which is also weird. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And even if it all boils down to, for me, boils down to two things. One, it's just really fun to think about. It's more interesting to think about than if it doesn't exist, But if it doesn't exist and there's something that's in your brain or your imagination that's triggered to see this historical character that you didn't even know about, really, and didn't know that it was historically accurate to the place you were at, like that in of itself is fascinating, just alone. You know what I mean? And to me, at the end of the day, I've said it before, it's all about the stories. Like hearing this story that you have, that is something that I will think about now for the rest of my life.
Totally. And I think there's a big interest in questions like I think that everybody sort of has is there life after death? Are we alone in this universe? Is there are we being visited now, or have we ever been visited? Like, what are some of these mysteries people are saying that they've experienced? That's not supposed to be that way, in a strange way, but here they are, and we hear it all the time. People telling, that's what's been great about doing this podcast is, my God, I would say 80 to 90% of the people that come on this show as our guests have had some sort of paranormal experience, or at least know somebody in their close circle who has as well. And it's like, my God, the numbers are staggering.
Yeah. No, that's true. I mean, that's so true. There's so much going on. Is there any phenomenon that you guys have been like, absolutely not, this is out? Or are you just keeping the book open?
I think Michael and I would both agree that shape-shifting reptilian overlords are pretty much out. We don't. I don't think we vibe with that.
I tend to the stuff where there's a real agenda behind it, a real, like when someone's really trying to tell you why you should be scared. Again, kind of going in what your points were about religion, Mano. That tends to be when it doesn't pass the sniff test for me. You know what I mean? Because in terms of alien reptilian overlords, like, to me, the Illuminati's in plain sight. Like, we all know that, like, the majority of the wealth of this planet is controlled by very few people. You know what I mean? It's not a conspiracy, and it doesn't take long to figure out how we've gotten ourselves in that situation. But then again, you hear stories of like the lizard man of Scape or Swamp, and then you're like, well, Am I open to the idea of there being giant reptilians, even if they're not evil alien overlords? I don't know. I guess, but it's not coming from. Those stories don't tend to come from people that are trying to sell you something or tell you to be afraid of an entire group of people. You know what I mean?
No.
Right.
So I don't know. It's weird, but there are definitely stories that you do hear that I go, and we don't have to get into them, but there's something like, I don't know. I just don't buy it. That's
kind of my question. What do you do with people, for lack of a more sensitive word, bonko brains, the bonko brains in this field who are mucking it up for everyone? You know what I mean? The people who are like, I see light when I sleep and the flies tickle my titties. What do you do with those people?
Well, with all due respect to those people.
I'm being fully sensitive. You know, those wackadoos.
No,
it comes with the territory.
Yeah, and I think it becomes pretty quickly pretty much apparent if somebody's dealing with a real phenomenon or they're dealing with some issues. You know what I mean? You really can kind of tell, I think. Not, I don't know. It's difficult. That's why you have to like do a little research. John Tenney, who's paranormal investigator we've had on the show and researcher, he'll talk about how he takes time and has people tell their story over and over and over again. And it's only when the consistencies remain that way that he goes, okay, this person might actually have experienced something. So you just can't go in also just like yes to everything with this stuff either. You have to be skeptical. You absolutely do.
And I found that some of the more incredible and I think truer tales, there's always a hesitancy there, right? Like there's always like this person is very, sort of, just skeptical of what they experienced. There's a personal skepticism that comes along with supernatural phenomena. It's not a club that a lot of people want to be in. It doesn't come with a lot of, glitz and glamour. It's like you said, people are often made fun of and they don't, it's not something that to be gained from some of these stories that these people tell. Only misery and pain and, sort of, they become a laughing stock in some cases. And not only that, but sometimes their lives can fall apart,
Yeah, totally. That's
I think for me, at the end of the day, like I'm not religious at all, but it's just like our perception of reality is so limited and so subjective to our interpretation. And like the universe is so vast. And so like ruling out these like strange, bizarre, unexplainable things just seems like counterintuitive almost, whereas it's just that we don't know what we're in this life, and it's so easy to forget it. So like why not ghosts? Why not aliens?
Well, I think that's a great point, Riley, and actually ties into something I was thinking about, Mano, when you were telling your story and just talking about the location of that old house and then this entity that seems to be there. There's something going off in my brain thinking, well, what if reality is programmed, I'm not like, it's all I mean, maybe it is a hologram or what is simulated, but what if reality actually behaves more like a video game simulation where you're like, well, if you go into this room in this level, these sprites are going to be there and these programs are running and these characters will appear here. You know what I mean? And what
if we're in EP? What if we're in the shittiest video game?
We might be. I mean, honestly, we might be. And then some people would argue it's like, well, it's actually really cool because it's like the most Sims game ever. But then, like, of course, the programmers, because they want to keep things interesting, they're like, yeah, if you go to that old house, it'd be like on a Reddit thread. If it's like, if you go to that old house in Greece, there's a knuckle dragging, shade that appears every like 15 nights. So you got to go on a night when he's going to show up. You know what I mean?
I love this. This reminds me of that kid on the bus who's like, if you jump on the hill in Mario 64, you can unlock Luigi.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, we're that kid. Yeah.
Like Yoshi's on top of the castle, but you got to figure out how to get on top of the castle to find Yoshi.
It's there. That's true. But someone's like, you can. There's a picture of Peach blowing Wario. It is, I swear. I swear to fucking God.
But if you
yeah,
don't take warp 3, you're not going to get there.
Yeah.
I think it's something like that. You know what I mean? We're just like
Yeah.
there's different level design and different characters and different rules, and all these sort of mythologies show up in different places around the world. You know, and for some reason, you know, that we don't know about. But anyway,
to me,
who knows?
that appealed to me.
Who knows? You know.
That really
we're gonna find out what else appeals to you, Mano, because we have a game we like to play with all of our guests. First of all, that was an amazing, two fucking great stories. I love that you said one of them was not good. They were both great.
I mean, the other one. Thank you.
So we're gonna go down a list of phenomenon, and if you believe in it or you're open to it, you say believe it. If you're not, you say bullshit. There's no in between. So
okay, into it or bullshit.
Bullshit or believe it.
Okay, bullshit or believe it. Got it.
This is a game that we like to call bullshit
or believe it.
Mano Agapion, on your mark.
Okay.
Get set. Ghosts.
Believe it.
UFOs.
Believe it.
Bigfoot.
Bullshit.
Little gray aliens.
Little gray aliens?
Yeah, like alien grays. Like the guys. Okay, great. Out of body experiences.
Believe it.
Demonic possession.
Oh shit.
Oh, that old programming rears its head.
Fuck. Bullshit.
The Bermuda Triangle.
Bullshit.
Alien abductions.
Believe it.
Loch Ness Monster.
Believe it.
Time travel.
Bullshit.
Mothman.
Bullshit.
Reincarnation.
Bullshit.
ESP.
Bullshit.
Haunted houses.
Believe it.
The Illuminati.
Believe it.
There's a face on Mars.
Bullshit.
Skunk ape.
What? Bullshit, because I'm so confused. Bullshit.
Well, you just unlocked a secret game, so Bryce, get ready. We'll play right after this. Heaven.
Bullshit.
Hell.
Bullshit.
Sea serpents.
Yeah, believe it.
Poltergeists.
What's the difference between a poltergeist and a ghost? Can I ask that?
Poltergeists are like, they tend to throw things around the room. They might be telekinetic activity, not actual spirits.
Oh, okay. Bullshit.
Chupacabra.
Bullshit.
Atlantis.
Believe it.
Life on other planets.
Believe it.
Parallel dimensions.
Believe it.
The apocalypse.
Oh, fuck. Believe it.
Life after death.
Bullshit.
Well done, Mano. You made it through. I was gonna say you're Greek. You better believe in Atlantis.
Oh yeah,
totally. Yeah, that comes with it.
So Bigfoot, no Bigfoot for you, huh?
No, I don't know. It's like some of those. I really just waffled back and forth on some of those, but for some reason that one, I love every story of it. Like I am totally tickled by every story of it, but I've never been like I really believe it.
Great.
Yeah.
Okay. Well, you unlocked a hidden game within the game because you didn't know what skunk ape was. You're confused.
Yeah.
We're handing this over to Bryce Johnson for a game we like to call Bryce Johnson Sells Skunk Ape in 60 Seconds. So he's going to tell you what skunk ape is, and he's got 60 seconds to prove to you.
It's going to be tough. Okay. Well,
he exists. Wait. Okay. So here we go. 60 seconds to sell skunk ape. On your mark, get set, and begin.
Mano, this will work a lot better if you go into your search bar and type in skunk ape. So just type in skunk ape. Skunk ape is like the southern eastern version of the Pacific Northwest Bigfoot. Anyway, in the 80s, an old lady claimed that something was visiting her backyard and taking her apples. She's like, did somebody lose an orangutan? She wrote an anonymous letter to the sheriff's department because she was worried her grandkids would often come over, and she was really worried about their safety. One night, she heard something taking her apples, and she said she took out her camera and she took 2 flash photos. Now, those are the 2 photos you can see. There's actually 2 of them. And she describes it in her letter. She says, I took the first picture, the flash went off. I saw the creature, and I immediately took another one, and it started to stand up. Now, in those pictures, you can see the canine front teeth. You can see the refraction in his eyes.
10.
It's obviously
9,
not an orangutan.
8,
it's
7,
actually a Florida
6,
skunk ape.
5.
Wow.
5 seconds
3,
early.
2, 1. That's it. So,
New
do you buy it?
time.
You know, I love the story. I really, and you know what? Not too long. That was just right.
Okay,
That was
great.
That was an amazing length. Edit. No, I'm kidding. That's great. I love these pictures. They're really scary. They look kind of like Mama. You ever see, they look like if Mama was hairy, so I guess Dada.
That's an all new. That's a different pitch that I think you could probably sell.
If you're really interested, I think you could probably find the letter somewhere on the internet. It's only about a page long, and it's really cute. It's from a little old lady, and she's, like I said, she's just worried about her grandkids.
I mean, I love these pictures. I love the story. It does look horrifying. I am going to say bullshit because it's Florida, and I don't trust it coming out of Florida.
Fair enough.
Okay, well, we're going to take a quick break, and when we come back, Bryce, your storytelling skills are going to be put to the test once again with this week's Tale of High Strangeness. We'll be right back.
Let me cut out about 2 pages.
All right, Club Scouts, we're back with Mano Agapion, and it's time for this week's story of high strangeness. It's Bryce Johnson's turn. Bryce, what from the annals of history did you bring for us tonight?
Well, I think this is a good one, and Mano, I hope you enjoy it. I hope it's not too long, but I don't want to speed read it. But, this is sort of a mix between a Bigfoot tale and something that might not be a Bigfoot, but more of a monster. Let me just jump right in. Great. Imagine you're a 9-year-old boy who just moved to an incredible new farmhouse in northwestern Kentucky with your family. A place where you and your brothers and sisters could roam free, climb trees, explore the woods, and just be a boy. Now imagine that dream turning into a nightmare because over the next 11 months, you and your family are basically terrorized by a giant, hairy, red-eyed beast that would come to be known as the Spottsville Monster. Michael, have you heard of the Spottsville Monster?
No, and I'm so excited because it sounds like totally up my alley. Let me ask you, Are there horny teens in this story?
Oh, God, no. I could add some somewhere along the way if you want.
I'll take a little creative license.
Okay. This is the true story of the Nunnally family, and who experienced just that. In April of 1975, the Nunnally family, Rosalie and Red, along with their 6 children, moved into a small, isolated farmhouse very close to the banks of the Green River in Kentucky, a quiet little town called Spottsville. Now, the Nunnally new house on Mound Ridge Road seemed perfect at first. The property contained many types of fruit and berry trees, lush woods, and some good farmland, where Red planned to grow several acres of tobacco. And Rose, his wife, looked forward to raising a big vegetable garden. The 6 kids could play in the big yard and artifact hunt for Indian arrowheads along the front and the sides of the house. And despite the fact that there were holes in the back screen door where the previous owner admitted that he fired several rifle shots from inside the house at a large, hairy feller who was standing just outside peering in at him, other than that, it was all grand. You know how it is when you sometimes something's great, you ignore those crucial details like that. Anyway, Red, the father, was a tough, intelligent, no-nonsense type guy who was not easily scared by anything, and his 12-gauge shotgun could take care of any such problems that might arise. It wasn't until their chickens started disappearing at a rapid rate and the boys started to find carcasses of dead dogs out in the backwoods that things started to take an eerie turn. Because upon closer inspection, the boys found the bodies were strangely mutilated, sliced from groin to gullet with all the internal organs removed, including the eyes and tongues. Even stranger was the fact that there was no blood or footprints at all around the grisly discoveries, even though most were found in the open. Also strange was the fact that no scavenger would eat the remains, not even a fly would land on them and lay eggs. Now, before all said and done, the family would lose over 200 chickens, a goat, a horse, and would find the remains of 8 dogs, a pig, and a goat, all mutilated in the same way. One day, Red and Rose heard what sounded like something big drinking water from the small creek behind the house. By the sound of the loud gulping noises it was making, it was at least as big as a horse or cow. But then it let out a bellowing scream that no one had ever heard before. At night, they began to hear strange noises coming from outside the surrounding fields, some of which contained swampy ponds and thick growths of trees. And from the woods behind the house, sometimes it would be close by, sometimes far away. The 2 vicious and highly treasured guard dogs the family owned could be heard bumping their heads on the floorboards as they scurried beneath the house in fear of whatever was making the sounds. Now, this caused Red much concern. As a precaution, when his older son Harold began remodeling their house, Red invited him and his family to move their trailer out and set it beside his house. As Red was suffering from glaucoma and steadily losing his eyesight, he felt the family would be safer with another grown man who could shoot a gun if the need arose. One day, a stranger came walking from the tree line across one of the fields. He was holding a shotgun and walking towards the house, his other hand up in the air in a friendly gesture. It took both the adults to finally calm down the dogs when the stranger approached and introduced himself as a neighbor who lived less than a half a mile up the road. He stated that he'd just been squirrel hunting in the nearby woods and had scared up something big and hairy that ran away on its hind legs. As it was heading in this direction, he had not the slightest idea what the animal could be or how dangerous it was. He felt it was his duty to warn the family about the event. Red liked this man immediately and invited him back for coffee when he had the chance, and the two became great friends. And this would play a pivotal role in the drama that was about to unfold. The first sighting by the Nunnallys happened around 8 o'clock one evening when Rose stepped onto the front porch to call Harold and his wife and 3 children over for a late supper. They'd been working in the fields all day. She looked to her left and saw a giant, hairy beast at least 8 feet tall standing in the darkness by a nearby shed just looking at her. She screamed, then ran back inside and locked the door. Harold rushed over holding his rifle. Red grabbed the shotgun, shaking. Rose called the police, and after briefly looking around close to the house and finding nothing, the state police left, probably laughing at the crazy story of the giant monster. But they would be back several more times as events escalated into an almost nightly visitation by the creature. Eventually, even though it was later learned that similar sightings were taking place all along the river in towns such as Bluff City and Hebbardsville, the police refused to respond to any more monster calls, and the family was left to defend themselves. Dean, aged 10, had a close encounter of his own as well. He was standing in the front yard one day when he heard a tremendous crashing through the trees out back, followed by a complete and unsettling quiet that came over the entire area. He looked and saw the thing standing in a small gully by an old truck. He described it as being huge and tall, with a square jaw and small, close-set eyes. It was covered in reddish-gray hair, thin and patchy in spots as if it was very old. All of the children saw it one morning standing in a cornfield out front. It towered above the full-grown corn and seemed to sway slightly from side to side as it stood. And at nighttime, the creature would often peer through their windows and try and turn doorknobs and bang on the outside walls. Now, by this time, the local TV news had heard of the events from the police band radio and sent a camera crew and a police sketch artist out to the place. The artist drew a hairy, man-like animal, and a segment about the family was featured on the evening news. The next day, a crew of reporters from the local newspaper descended on the Nunnally farm to get the scoop. The morning edition of The Gleaner dubbed the beast the SPOTTSVILLE Monster, and the accompanying article treated the sighting fairly, despite some misquotes such as calling the monster green and misnaming the name of the road on which the family lived, which may have been a good thing because, ironically, this sent the crowds of gun-toting monster hunters that descended on Spottsville to everywhere but the correct location. Meanwhile, the neighbor from down the road agreed to try and track the monster down for the sake and the safety of the Nunnally children. He encountered it one day at an old abandoned house far back in the woods. It was stooping down, looking out the window at him. The man fired on it, and in the same instant, he said later, it just vanished right before his very eyes. Shaken by the sighting, he went home, completely frightened and perplexed. What in the hell had he just witnessed? He didn't give up, however, and eventually claimed to have found trace evidence in the form of some hair, a claw, and a plaster cast of a partial footprint left in the near-frozen ground. The print, though incomplete, was impressive and showed the clear impression left by a large, four-toed foot. When the news coverage began, Red referred the reporters up to talk to the neighbor, which they did. His name appeared in print, and he, like the Nunnally family, suffered intense public ridicule. The children were endlessly taunted at school, along with their friendly neighbor who worked at the nearby fire department. The events finally came to a climax when the neighbor told Mr. Nunnally about a bizarre encounter with the creature he had experienced a couple of weeks prior. He had been looking for the thing one day, he said, when it started to rain. He was walking a tree line at the time, and there was a nearby, long-abandoned old barn into which he went seeking shelter from the rain. Little did he know the creature was also inside. He stood only for a moment at one end of the open-ended barn when suddenly the feeling that he wasn't alone washed over him. He slowly turned around and found himself staring into a huge, hairy midsection. He stood well over 6 feet tall, but he had to look almost straight up to see this creature's face, which he described as horrible and deeply terrifying, with a short muzzle, long pointed fangs set into both its upper and lower jaws, black skin and strange red eyes that chilled and frightened him to his very soul. He reached for the rifle strapped on his shoulder, but suddenly found himself unable to move as those terrible eyes froze him in their gaze. The man thought that he was surely done for when the strangest thing happened. It spoke to him without using its mouth at all, but some sort of mental telepathy, and said, "Don't be afraid, I will not harm you." Whoa. Then it turned around and ran out the other end of the barn and into a plowed field, now muddy from the rain. It was a few moments before he could move again, trying to clear the vision of those red burning eyes from his mind. When he finally did compose himself, he walked to the doorway through which the being had ran, hoping to see for the first time the creature's tracks in the muddy field. There were none. When he told this story to the father, Red, they soon realized that this was no ordinary monster, and Red asked his neighbor if he thought it might come up one night and try to steal one of the children. The neighbor replied that it was not likely, as they had been here for nearly a year already, and the thing seemed content with killing their animals and merely scaring people. But, he told him, if the creature ever did decide to do that, there would be a thing anyone in this world could do about it. Soon after that talk, the neighbor Red and Rose gathered their children and belongings and moved back to the safety of the city. Now, Bart Nunnally, one of the boys who was 9 at the time of these events, and whom I owe a great deal of this story's details, went on to interview the neighbor that tried to save him in February of 2005. Quote, "It had been 30 years since I had seen him. He was older, but still pleasant, friendly, intelligent, and cordial. He still lived in the same house that he lived in back then, and is a God-fearing Christian with no reason to lie and no want of any publicity whatsoever. After promising never to reveal his name in a public forum, and because I was Red's son, he agreed to grant me the interview and tell me everything that had happened to him during and after our ordeal in 1975. What he told me about his further encounters with the SPOTTSVILLE monster astounded me. He claimed that he had seen the beast several more times after my family left. Moreover, he said that what he had seen with his own eyes went far beyond anything he had ever dreamed possible. One day he was walking along a field and noticed a strange area that looked like heat waves rising from a hot summer road. The area was only a few yards wide, and to either side everything looked normal. As he was watching, one of the creatures stepped out of this strange wavy area, like stepping out of a doorway. 1 second nothing, and the next, there it was, looking right at him. It growled at him and at the same time screamed inside his head to leave me alone. Then it turned around and took a step back into the strange-looking doorway and disappeared. After that, he began watching the area from a distance using binoculars. In all, he claimed to have witnessed several different monsters using this doorway a total of 3 different times. always appearing or disappearing seemingly into thin air. These strange creatures would then be seen crossing his own property and tripping the motion detecting security lights in his yard. His last sighting was in August of 2004 when asked if I could see the trace evidence. I received another revelation. Soon after the media coverage back in '75, he said he was visited by the state police and a couple of other men whom he took to be federal game officials. They demanded that he return all the evidence concerning the Spottsville Monster over to them immediately, which he did. Moreover, they stated that if he ever talked to anyone else about the subject, especially the media, he would be arrested without hesitation and thrown into prison on a made-up charge and would never see his wife and 2 young daughters again unless it was looking at them through prison bars. In addition, a statement had been prepared for the local paper in his name stating for a fact that what he had seen was nothing more than a large black bear. Now, not easily intimidated, he first balked at the whole thing, reasoning that, this is America and his rights were being violated. But the officials were very persuasive, and in the end, he had little choice but to go along with the charade for the sake of his family. Over the years, he had tried to get the items back, but with no luck, and over time, he and his family came home and found a large freezer bag on the front porch. It had the remains of his plaster cast smashed into powder. The statement was later released to the local paper, which proudly proclaimed the mystery of the Spottsville Monster solved. The hordes of monster hunters melted away. Everything quieted down, and the Spottsville Monster faded into memory. The man never talked of the Spottsville Monster again, fearing the threats to this day, as he now owns a successful business and does not wish to jeopardize it. He blames the inability to speak of his encounters on a heart attack he suffered in '85, which left him for a brief time clinically dead. And it's also interesting to note that the entire area has a history of active UFO sightings, and many houses nearby are said to be haunted on the inside as well. As he goes on to say, I know this to be true. I've lived in a couple of them myself and have seen unexplained aerial phenomena on many occasions in the company of witnesses numerous times. And that was from the files of Bart Nunnally. And that's the story of the Spottsville Monster.
Ooh.
Mano,
Ooh.
What the hell was that?
I got a note. Too short. The story was too short.
You're sweet.
Details. I didn't even. What the fuck was the ESP moment? Yeah. That's wild.
Isn't that crazy? I mean, Michael, how many of these little notes hit some stuff from like other cases? Like, oh
well,
my God.
Let me tell you, Bryce, I was Googling and scribbling down some notes. So first of all, let's talk about the animal mutilations, the desanguation or exsanguation of the livestock, the eyes and the tongues missing, and there being no blood around them, but drained of blood. That's like classic. Also, I Googled Spottsville. It's right off the Ohio River. It's on the Green River, just south of the Ohio River. So smack dab in the Ohio River Valley, Mano, where all of this weird stuff, where so many weird stories from the 60s, 70s, and 80s all take place. And not only that, and maybe you noticed this in your research, Bryce, it's also, Spottsville sits right on the 37th parallel.
Wow.
What the hell is that?
Oh my
the
God.
37th parallel is coordinate.
It's a longitudinal line that runs across America, where a good majority, I would say like 75 to 80% of UFO sightings and cattle mutilations have taken place. So it's a strange pattern author Chuck Zukowski sort of found.
So there's a lot of this hit a ton of again, consistent story beats from stuff that we've heard on this podcast again and again.
That's
go ahead.
Oh, go ahead.
I was going to say, how about the "Don't be afraid, I will not harm you"? I mean, that's a direct line from Indrid Cold in a sense.
Yeah, it really was. Mano, what do you think about all this stuff?
I think it's a fantastic story. I think it's a great story. I mean, and is that technically a Bigfoot? Is it a Bigfoot? Is it a creature? Is it a lagoon thing? What how do we classify this guy?
Yeah, it's a great question, right? Because we've done stories where you got the pretty classic Bigfoot, and then you have these other sort of monsters that are hairy and tall, but have these red glowing eyes and are very nefarious and sort of like the Beast of Bray Road. And
it had that snout sounded like Mono. There's something called the Dog Man as well, which I used to really make fun of. And then I started researching, and we spoke to this author, Linda Godfrey, who's awesome and super down to earth. And she's been collecting these stories and writing on them for years now. And this is what John Keel, a famous paranormal investigator from the 60s and 70s, would classify as a big hairy monster or a BHM. It sort of doesn't fit in any strict category of Bigfoot, but it's got a lot of similarities to it.
Yeah.
Well, and how many times are we talking about maybe Bigfoot goes through portals? And here's an eyewitness saying and describing this wavy door line like on a hot summer's day that you see on the road, and monsters coming in and out of it. I mean, there you have it. I mean, that's absolutely wild.
Yeah, I mean that is cuckoo. But guess what? I do have a cynical take on this, because, and it doesn't mean I exclusively don't believe, but hear me out. My cynical take on this, you know what? The greatest injustice of this is that this writer's not going to get credit for this almost perfectly crafted story because it is now attributed to a thing that factually happened. I can't help but think the thought that, damn, that is a good story that now doesn't get all the credit it deserves.
Yeah, well, you know, they, like I said, this was in the newspapers and TV reporters reported on this, so the story's out, that's for sure.
But we don't know the name of the Nunnally's neighbor that a lot of this stuff comes from.
Yeah,
he remains anonymous.
In a few different sources, his name was Roy.
Okay.
Yeah. No, I mean, and look, I'm the first. If I'm the first who wants to be proven wrong, and obviously I've seen weird shit, but you know, it's been a second. And what do you guys think about do you guys believe in if you shut your brain off to it, you're less likely to see it, or you don't believe in that at all?
You know,
that's a great question.
Well, I thought you brought that point up earlier in the show, Mano, and I think we've definitely talked about Bryce and Riley, how if you're jonesing for a give me a ghost, give me a thing, it's more often than not that you won't get anything back. It seems I think what Mano's point is that oftentimes these encounters, especially when we're talking the Bigfoot or UFO variety, seem to happen to people where that type of thing is the last thing on their mind.
Yeah.
Yeah. Right.
Is that what your point?
That's what I'm saying. Because I think there has to be some correlation. You know what I mean? I'm ignoring it. It's like if you put me in a strip club, I'm not noticing 90% of what my heterosexual peers are noticing, you know? Right. And it's kind of the same. It's well, did you fucking see that? I'm like, oh no, I missed it completely. I was looking at bulges on Instagram. I was not looking at the same thing you were looking at.
You know, it's so funny. I always joke about if this
bulges on Instagram.
I'm a filthy dick pig, guys. I know you probably know this. You know this.
Fair enough.
Yeah. Wait. What do you think about that? As you were saying.
I was going to say, what I love about one of the details I love about this story, and you have to remember this is a real family. They're all still alive today, and is that they actually got up and moved. I mean, I've heard some interviews with Rosalie Nunnally, and she's like, after that, we moved. We couldn't take it anymore, and we got up and moved, and it, that just rings so true. It's just fuck. Because right. If his house was haunted, I'd be like, I'm out. Put it up for sale. I'm done. I'm gone. And then there's just so many strange details that sort of lock in with a lot of other stories we hear. I mean, what did you think of the federal game official sort of warning and intimidating him not to tell this story? That reminds me of course, the Men in Black in a strange way.
That's weird. I don't, that's when I really hate to say it, but that's when my skepticism starts to ping, is when it's and then the government, I get it, but I don't understand if it's true. I don't, and I'm not saying it's not. I just don't understand the intimidation factor behind some of this stuff. That like, is it that the government knows that there are interdimensional hairy monsters crossing in and out of Kentucky, and they just don't want people to know? It doesn't seem like they would have to work that hard to make people not believe it in the first place. You know what I mean?
Well, I think to the point,
tons
though, Michael,
of plaster casts out there that the majority of Americans go, it's bullshit. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So I don't know why they're going to the lengths of like destroying his plaster cast and then like intimidating, saying we're gonna like kill you or something.
That's right to my point. If they perhaps these weren't government agents, but something is more along the line of the strange, like those men in black. I don't believe were government agents,
Right. Which then just begs the question: well, what's that game about? I don't know.
Knows?
It's all weird. It's just that same weird narrative over and over again.
Yeah.
The sketches, though, sort of he looks like, the Bret Michaels of Bigfoots, though. The sketches are great. You'll see him on our Instagram page. He's got sort of a rock and roll flair.
Yeah, horny and willing to date 14 young hot lunatics in the interest of finding his true rock of love. Is that what he's saying?
Yeah, that's perfect.
Wears a bandana that's actually just a wig, never takes it off.
I would, okay, now this is the real crossing of worlds. If we could see a paranormal dating show, that nothing would make me happier. If we could make The Bachelor with every paranormal being there, nothing would make me happier.
Okay, Mano, you've just struck something. We're all...
That's gold.
Yeah, that's gold. So we've got the four of us have that idea.
Great.
And we'll get to work on it.
Perfect.
Mano Agapion, thank you so much, Bryce. That was a fantastic story. Thank you.
Of course.
Mano, thank you so much for being on the show. Like Bigfoot, where in the world can people find you?
Oh boy, yeah, easier to find. You can find me at my name on the social medias at Mano Agapion. You can listen to my drag podcast, Drag Her. You can listen to my Patreon podcast, We Love Trash.
I'm a subscriber and a supporter.
You fucking angel. God bless you. And I have one more thing to plug because I'm crazy. And recently, me and Betsy we decided to cover and recap the new Netflix show, Too Hot to Handle. And
are you kidding me? I almost did that with Marcy Lane. That's hilarious. Marcy and I were talking about it, and then I gave up real quick on that idea. We're, of course, speaking of Betsy Sidaro, who our listeners know very well, co-host with Marcy of A Funny Feeling podcast. That's fantastic.
Yeah, it's on Stitcher Premium. It's called Too Horny to Recap. And 2 episodes drop every week, so I'm clucking about it online.
Oh shit!
I love it. Okay, great. Bryce, Riley, anything to plug during the quarantine?
No.
My gaping sense of despair.
That's good. Hey,
no, I'm just kidding. Everything's good.
How's the Spindrift album tracking on college radio? It's doing pretty well. Last we heard,
it's still in the charts, and still we don't know when it's actually going to come out. So,
congratulations.
You can hear it on the radio. That's pretty cool. It's a funny, strange situation, but yeah. So call your college radio station and ask for some Spindrift.
Guys, when better than during a pandemic to get back in touch with the radio?
That's right.
Man, that's awesome.
Fucking do it. Okay, guys, thank you for listening to the show. Until next week, I remain Michael McMillan for Bryce Johnson and Riley Bray. Until then, good night.
And go get regressed.
Fucking great news.
Bigfoot Collectors Club is produced by Riley Bray. Our theme song is Come Alone by Suneaters, courtesy of Lotuspool Records. If you like the show, please rate and review us on Apple Podcasts. It really helps get the podcast to more listeners. To support the show, check out our Patreon page at patreon.com/Bigfoot Collectors Club and unlock multiple reward episodes every month.